our first FB live stream for this episode. And today I'm so excited to welcome our guest for the day, Datuk Nicol and David, world champion, squash queen, Malaysian pride. Dato, thank you so much for being a part of this and agreeing to do this interview.
Okay.
We've been planning to meet face to face for
Yeah.
the interview here in Kuala Lumpur, but because of the movement control order and the crisis that we're all facing right now, the COVID-19 crisis, thank you for agreeing to do this FB Live question with us. We are so honored to have you on with us.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I really wanted to meet in person now to do this interview, but it's great that we could do it together here on Facebook Live. So my
Yeah,
first
this is
time as
our
well.
first our first FB Live. So yeah, great and so excited to do it with you. Dato, tell us a little bit about, I want to start with your childhood in Penang, like how
Yeah.
you started in Penang and then just like getting to that level of glory in squash. Tell us a bit about your childhood in Penang and how you stumbled upon this sport that would ultimately define your career.
It all really started when my dad's friend actually built this public squash center, which is the first public squash center in Penang, and his friend actually asked my dad to call my sisters to get some lessons, and before you know it, like they really had fun. But I was 5 years old at the time, and
Wow.
I was probably too young to actually get on court, so I was following them going to their lessons, and I was like intrigued by the game straight away, just
Mm,
watching it and the movement of the ball. Everything was just so much fun, and I asked my dad whether I could play, but he told me I was too small and the racket was far too big for me to play
okay.
to for me to use it. So
Mm,
in time, I really just was like getting tired of the fact that I guess ran around the squash center and kept myself busy, and before you know it, the coach said, okay, we have to put you on the squash court and try and get a and then my dad asked his friend to get the racket cut into half, and got me a
really?
smaller racket too.
Wow.
Yeah, to get on court, and it's like a wooden racket, so it was very heavy, but I still managed to get on court with this racket. I felt like, I just loved it straight away when I hit the ball for the first time. And from then on, I just like kept playing ever since. I went with my sisters
Wow.
to tournaments. I was 8 years old when I
Mm.
started really training full like quite regularly with them.
Mm.
And then I started traveling to local tournaments in Malaysia, and yeah, that's how my love for squash sparked in Penang with my sisters.
And where was this center in Penang? Is this the one in Bukit Dumba?
Yeah, yeah, that's the
That's
one.
the one?
Yeah,
Okay, that has been named to the Datuk
yeah,
Nicol David Squash Center now.
yeah. It was actually called the Pepsi Squash Center, and then it became like the Penang Squash Center, and then the Penang state government actually decided to name that whole entire place after my name. So it's now the Nicol
Yeah,
David International Squash Center, and that moment was really special for me because
yeah,
to be brought up in that place for the first time and to
yeah,
actually have that whole center named after you, it was an emotional
yeah,
day for sure. I couldn't keep
yeah.
my composure at one point, but it was very special for sure.
And it came full circle where you started and then now it's
Yeah,
named after you.
yeah,
Tell
yeah.
us about your first tournament that you won. What was going through your mind? Did you go in there thinking like, you know what, this is my first tournament. I'm just going to give it my all. I'm going to win. Or do you just have the mindset of just having fun?
It was really fun. Like I was so pleased to actually be part of the team, the Malaysian team, going to Hong Kong for the first time. And I
Okay.
was 11 years old. I was playing the under 13s, and actually my mom had to follow me and my sister Cheryl because it was my first outing, and she really wanted to make sure I was kept
Okay.
in good form. So she followed us to Hong Kong, and I was in just having such a great time with my
Mm,
making new friends, enjoying new cultures, and I managed to get into the finals of the under 13s, and it was my
wow.
birthday. So uh, the whole team got me this skirt for me to play in, and I never used to wear a
Oh.
skirt. And I was this skinny, scrawny squash player trying to hit the ball, like running around the court, and I had to wear this skirt for the finals, and I think that it had special powers because I won it. So it was a great,
And it was
great
your birthday
memory
too.
for me. Yeah, and it was my birthday as well. So I always remember that moment.
Did you understand at that point, being 11 years old, the gravity of that situation, the gravity of that tournament, that first finals in your life, and actually winning it? Do you understand that at that point?
Not really. Not at all. I think it was more the fact that I was going into a squash event. I could play with my friends. I could meet new
Mm,
people, and I started winning.
mm,
And then the wins kept coming. I played more
okay.
tournaments overseas, and
Wow.
then I started winning tournaments. But I never really took it to account that it I had to win or I was pressured to win. I just went in there and saw, okay, let's give it a shot. Who knows what comes out? So it was like that
Okay.
constantly. Every tournament I played, I was doing better. I saw
Mm,
myself improving, so I kept training
mm,
harder with my
okay.
sisters. My sisters were my benchmark to try and beat as well because
That
they
competitive
were
spirit.
my
Yeah.
inspirations.
Okay.
To be at that level to get better, and they were obviously much better than me. So the more I trained with them, the better I learned from them and got a lot
Mm,
of good tips to get better. And yeah, it
right.
just spiraled on from there. I just got better in the national team. I went into the seniors and I started winning tournaments then.
Mm.
And my first world title, junior title, when I was 15 years old, is when it hit me that I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Who was your biggest push? Was it your sister Cheryl? Was it your coach? Was it your father who kind of like paved the way for you to hold your the racket for the first time? Who was your biggest push?
Um, I there wasn't a push. It was more the encouragement, and I think one
Mm,
of our first coach, Miss E Poi Hoon, she was a real vision for our state team in Penang. She
right.
created
Okay.
a very strong knit, like a family feel with all of
Yeah.
us. My sisters and I were the only few girls that were playing squash at the
Mm,
time, and she nurtured us in a way that it's not about pressuring us, it's about giving us that sense of comfort and ease
mm,
that we can get better, we can improve, and we can get a chance to do better in tournaments. So step by step she gave us these opportunities to improve, and that was I think
mm.
having that without having to be pushed to win or to do well. She just gave us the encouragement that we can do as well as we can if we put the work in, we train hard, and we have some certain
Wow.
targets to work towards. So yeah, it
Yeah.
was her mentorship from the beginning, and she was a female
Mm.
coach as well that gave us a little bit more of the like a nice mentor or leader to follow.
And that's so important because it is so easy to get clouded by that constant competitive spirit. I played a
Yeah.
bit of competitive tennis when I was in Penang state
Ah, yeah.
level, and yeah, and it was just very very competitive. It's so easy to get clouded in that competitive spirit, and it's so important to have that close knit with your teammates. That I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, it was great
Yeah.
for she knew what to do and how to get us to work together, and
Mm.
it was always a nice environment to be around. That's why I always love hanging out at the squash courts and with my friends. Half the time we're actually just chatting and hanging out and then training the other half, but it was a lot of fun.
And then you decided to, you mentioned that you decided that you wanted to do this full time. You went on to the professional circuit,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
What was the the spark or the trigger then for you to say that, you know what, I'm going to play in the professional circuit and I want to do this for the rest of my life. I can see myself doing this.
Yeah, it was actually started off when I was like 14 years old.
Okay.
I won my first Asian senior title, so to actually play with the bigger girls, and it's to get that Asian title was huge, because I was only 14, and that kind of gave me a little click, and that also helped me in the next year when I won my first World Junior title at 15, and I was the
Yeah.
only female athlete in Malaysia that actually won a world title. So
Yeah.
all these things came into place, and it made me realize, like, this is, if I could win a world junior title, what more, maybe a senior world title someday. So that was my drive, and I shared it with my parents that I want to do this after SPM, my high school, and they
Yeah.
said, yeah, sure, give it a go. But just try it for the year and then see where you go. So I said, okay, I'll give it 1 year, and I moved up to the rankings really fast,
Wow.
in the top 16,
Mm.
and then they went, and then I asked them, I bargained with them, like, could I get maybe another year of professional squash before maybe I decide to go to school or something. And they
Mm.
said, yeah, sure, why not, you carry on. And the third year came in, and I went, I really want to move to Amsterdam and become a
Mm.
full-time pro. And they saw my how I was reacting to squash, and they
Mm.
just knew that this is my path, and they gave me their full blessings to go and
Wow.
do what I needed to do, because they saw how much it meant to me to do that, to go for my dreams.
Mm. How did the conversation with your parents go at that time? Was it a difficult conversation? I mean, I know Asian parents, you have to take up certain career paths. Was it an easy, moderate, or difficult conversation for you and your parents?
It wasn't too difficult. It was actually, I needed to, because they saw what I was doing. I was really
Yeah.
successful at a junior
Mm-hmm.
level.
Mm-hmm.
They were quite convinced with what I was doing. They won't just,
Mm-hmm.
let me go without actually really having some basis to, or grounds to
Correct.
take me
Yeah.
forward. So they actually stuck with me. I told them I'll try it that year, 1 year, and a lot of people have come up to them and say, how do you let your daughter just go after school and play professionally? They had to deal
Really?
with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people have seen
Mm-hmm.
in that sense that how do you let your daughter go, but they knew for a fact that if she wants to do what she wants to do, she's gonna give it
Mm-hmm.
100%. So,
Yeah.
and that was what I needed to push, give me that push. If not, I would have gone to university, studied, and try to get a good degree, and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
do well in my studies to work. But they saw my dad used to be an athlete as well, and he said, like,
Mm-hmm.
these opportunities don't come up every day, so take it and make the most of it. So.
So you mentioned that if you didn't pursue this, you would have gone to school, you would have gone to university.
Yeah.
What would you have studied, you think, if you didn't choose this path?
I would have probably done something in maybe architecturing or designing,
Nice.
something to do with
Nice.
art. But who knows? Like, I would have actually maybe even done something in, I don't know, engineering. But I'll come out being an artist or something, and or go into sport in some ways. But
Yeah.
yeah, it will come in a later time. But I
Mm.
wouldn't know what I would have done. Probably art, I think.
Okay, going back to your decision to up and choose Amsterdam as your base, set up base in Amsterdam. Why Amsterdam?
I went to Amsterdam during that first year when I was on tour, and I actually met Liz on tour.
Mm-hmm.
Liz Irving. She was based in Amsterdam, and she invited me over to just, why not check it out, see how it goes, and I actually asked her if it was possible to jump on court with her, and she was very open to that opportunity. So I went to Amsterdam, try out 1 or 2 weeks, and I felt that this place was really good, the atmosphere, the environment, and
Okay.
she was really perceptive of the game. She opened my mind to a different part of
Mm.
squash, and she knew a lot of it because she was former world champion for Australia, and
Mm.
a lot of
Okay.
experience, 20 years of experience behind her. So I went to Amsterdam to work with her, and I really love the city. Amsterdam is an amazing place, and the squash club that I was training at Squash City, they were so gracious to me, and yeah, that's why I stayed there for 16 years.
Wow. So would
Yeah.
you call that your home right now?
It was my home base for that time for my training, and because I
Mm-hmm.
really felt connected, and I knew that when I go back to Amsterdam, that was where I had to put the work in and put the grind in, and I had the space to do that as well.
Yeah. And why Liz? What kind of drew you to Liz Irving as your coach? Was it her particular
Mhm.
style, her coaching method? What was it like? How do you guys click? Because I think that there's a certain chemistry that a player and her coach needs to have to
Yeah.
have that the optimum results.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It was purely the fact that we got along really well. Like from
that's so
the word go,
important. Yeah.
we when we met, yeah, when we met, she's just a very nice person. She with a big heart, and she was very gracious to share her experience. She had so much knowledge of squash, and I was so
Mm,
intrigued with all that she was teaching. I was just like absorbing everything like a sponge because she was
wow.
so knowledgeable, and straight away we just got along and connected, and we could just really like she knew how to translate what she was teaching, and I could
Mm,
understand exactly and put it to practice. So that was
mm,
very exciting for me, because you can see things
mm,
happening at that very moment. When she says something, I do it, and when I do it, it works. So but it comes with time and practice, and I think that
mm,
that was the click from the very beginning. We just got along and became good friends, and that relationship kept going on because we trusted each other, that
yeah.
we had a role to play, and she gave me her input and expertise, and I came in to do what I needed to do to follow the plan and the task at hand.
And she was your coach for 16 years, you said?
Yeah, yeah,
16 years. That's a long relationship between a player and a coach. It takes a lot of trust to
yeah,
have that chemistry. Um,
yes,
Nicole, sports, as in life, right, has many ups and downs. They give you glory, they give you disappointment. We talked a lot about, your wins in tournaments. Talk us through the biggest adversity that you faced, that and how you overcome it. Was there a certain methodical way that you subscribe to in tackling these difficulties on court and also in life? But squash was such a big part of your life. So how do you overcome that?
yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody goes through their own difficulties and their own experiences in life, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm also in that same path as well. Um, with squash, I think the biggest challenge was when I got to world number one, and everything came together. It's a challenge of knowing now what, what do you do next? What do how do you become a world champion? Or no one actually tells you what to do, or there's no real guideline of, okay, this is the steps that you need to take. I just had to figure it out. So it was a bit of a struggle to understand what it feels like to be world number one or a world champion, and I had to figure it out as time goes by. I
Mm,
had to create a team with my coach, and we had a full set of team that is a sports psychologist, physical trainer, everything to sports science from Malaysia, all coming in to really help me to understand what it takes to be at the top
mm,
or to be a world champion. And those learnings are difficult, but slowly but surely I had to find out that this is my place, and I needed
yeah.
to
Mm,
embrace it and move forward from there. And then that was the first hurdle, and the next one is how do you sustain that. So that was another thing where I had to figure out what are my big strengths. So mentally, my mental aspect was the biggest strength that I had, and my physical aspect as well. So I had to work on it harder, and I kept pushing further to be at at the top to overcome all those challenges, continue to reinvent myself, refine everything, and
Mm.
every phase of being at the top and those challenges, I had to work with my team, and we come together and work
Wow.
together as a whole. Yeah.
Yeah. You held on to that number one spot, Nicole, for 9 years straight. You
Yeah.
know, you don't hold on to something that long without having a certain level of mental strength, a certain work ethic, a certain regime, a certain mindset, right?
Hmm.
Um, Talk us through your particular regime, mindset, and your work ethic, your routine that basically when you reach that number one spot, um, that that stamina, right, to
Yeah.
sustain that, because there were just so many players at that time that just wanted a number one spot. Like Nicol David was the one to beat. For 9 years, you just held
Yeah.
them off. Like, I'm here to stay. This is my spot. How do you do that?
Yeah, I think that was one of the things that I had to face, like
Yeah.
constantly, time and time again. Like
Mm.
players out to get me every time they stay on the court is they have nothing to lose, so they are
Yeah,
always
for
fine
sure.
analyzing my game. Coaches are figuring out how to beat me. I'm there like the hunted all the time,
Mm.
and I had to face that time and time again. But it also doesn't just happen once; it happens in different phases. So I have to be aware straight away what's happening at that moment. So with my mental training, with my sports psychologist, we really dive into every single aspect, every player, every
Mm.
situation, create
Mm.
those plans to really overcome these moments and just practice it. During my training, I have to practice this time and time again, turning things around from your mindset, whether it's and a lot negativity that comes to your mind in that moment. How do you want to minimize that negativity to keep
Mm.
positive, keep on your path, on your goal and your game plan while you're playing? So those are the very tough things to keep sustaining time and time again.
Yeah.
But it was the challenge that I love. That's what squash gave me. Like this is what I truly love about squash is that challenged me to push how far I can go with this with myself mentally, physically, and how I can overcome all these obstacles when it arises. So
Mm.
a lot of training, mental training, a lot of refining, reinventing, because I learn from
Mm.
the players too. They are always
Mm.
bringing new things in. So when I have to learn that okay, they're doing this now. I have to be better in this area of my squash technically, tactically. This
Mm.
have to be so on point to fine tune everything. So we are like working by percentage time and time again. So it was tiring, but it was just
Mm.
a focus every year, not a big focus, because if you take too big a goal, you get a little overwhelmed. So I always stuck to small goals
Mm.
to achieve those and then to reach the bigger goal.
So is that a tip that you would advise, the audience with, like, stick to the small goals, take one step at a time to
Exactly.
achieve your big goals?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Because I in the beginning actually it's I to reach what I wanted to go to is scary, because you're told
Mm.
like you only it takes a lot of years to get there. But I was determined to follow a plan, to have those small goals to reach every year, and then before you know it, you get there, and then you just have to trust the process, work hard, even when those days are hard for you. That you just have to get up and do it, and you know if you don't
Mm.
if you miss out a day, you might prolong the journey. So I
Mm.
knew I had to stick to it, and that's what sport does. It gives you that discipline to
Mm.
push through everything, and
Mm.
yeah, and yeah, I kept to it.
Do you think that having that attention to detail and being a perfectionist is important if you want to reach that world class standard that you reached?
For to me, I didn't realize I was a perfectionist, but I am so particular with the details. I think my
Yeah.
coach is
Mm,
as well, and she
mm-hmm,
knew that I would put it into play. I wouldn't let things go, and we worked really well together. My
mm,
team was working with me fully. I had also a very good physio with me, that my body was always ready and prepared, because squash is so demanding, and I had to be physically ready for every match, and I had to work even harder to be ready for a few tournaments in a row. So yeah,
mm,
I think that being so sound and so detailed kept me at the top for sure. Yeah.
yeah. Let's talk about your level-headed temperament. You're also known to be quite level-headed on court. How do you deal with that kind of pressure? Because, watching a lot of sports, and I also grew up watching tennis a lot, right? There were many players that would just smash their racket when they don't get a certain point, or when things get down to it. So how do
Plenty.
you deal with that kind of pressure? How do you sustain and maintain that level-headed temperament?
I think it was more the fact that if I let myself go,
Mm,
then I lose focus. I can easily lose track of what I'm there to do. So if
mm,
I'm angry or frustrated, I have to practice not letting it come in. So all
mm,
those, what's the point of getting angry at the referee or my not hitting it well, but just turning it around more positively and keeping myself in the right frame of mind. And it's
yeah.
tough, but I think um, it comes maybe from my upbringing, I guess, as well from my family, to make sure that when I'm on court, I want to respect my opponent. I don't want to
Wow.
be a jerk or someone or not acting bad, because I want to respect my opponent. And if I do something, or I don't, it just reflects badly in the situation. So that was always my in my mind. If I need to show that respect to my uh, opponent, and also I don't want to give them any kinks that I am
Mm,
not focused. So if you are angry and frustrated, you're just giving them more ammo to come and beat you. Try and
yeah.
keep a poker face as much as possible. But everything is going in your head, like.
And that's something that my coach used to say as well. Don't self-destruct. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something that he used to say. Yeah, but that's very powerful words, Nicole. Having that respect for your opponent, even though your opponent's on court, but you have to have that certain kind of respect. That's really powerful. Um,
Yeah.
So, yeah, sports
Thank-
commentators, your fans, they would all have differing points of view when it comes to their favorite Nicol David moments on court. But what is your favorite, Nicole? What is your favorite and finest hour on court, you would say?
On court,
Yeah.
my um my finest moment on court, I think, is when I was down and out in my eighth world title win in Egypt, in Cairo. I was playing with Ranima Walili, and I was 2-1 down, four match balls down, and it was 1 point for her to win that world title. And I was at that moment where I'm like, nothing to lose. I just went in there
Mm,
thinking of one thing, and that was, I'm not gonna let this last point go. I want to win that last point. I want to win that
mm,
last point, not
mm,
her. And I
mm,
knew with my experience, I saw her took her time, and she was thinking that she had to win as well. So at that
mm,
very moment, everything went like a blur. I couldn't remember anything. All I saw was this ball, and I ran for everything. I just went out there, gave it everything, and before you know it, I came out of the fourth game,
yeah.
and I won that fourth game, and now I have to play another game. My coach was telling me, you know what, you just keep to it, and go for it. Just don't
Mm,
think of anything else. You know what you're gonna do, and just push through. So I just did the
mm,
same thing. and I
Mm.
came out winning, and I realized that I gave everything I got. I didn't think of anything else but that one point, and I think that was one of my finest moments to be winning my eighth world title in that fashion, I think.
Wow. And you just blocked out everything. You blocked out the audience, everything.
I think I used even the energy of the audience that were cheering for her, for me, for my own good, because they were all for her, and I was going like, every any kind of energy around in the court. I just took it.
Mm.
I really can't
Mm.
remember what happened, to be honest. And I have to watch it again, but I think that was one of my, yeah, finest moments of my career.
Great. Yeah. What was the biggest sacrifice though that you think that you made for your career that ultimately brought you to number one?
Ah, it's funny. I don't actually think. I think the biggest sacrifice is
Mm.
being away from home, from my
Okay.
family, from my friends,
Mm.
and the
Yeah.
time away from them. Like maybe seeing some things or missing some moments back with people that you are close to and you truly love. But I know for a fact that I was out there training and competing, and I knew they were right by my side everywhere I went to,
Mm.
and all the sacrifices that I did paid off. Like the time that I need to spend training and investing my time purely on making sure that I'm fit and healthy, traveling a lot, making and playing all these tournaments too. But I never thought it was a sacrifice, to be honest, because I knew
Mm.
that was part of the job. It was part of the way I had to go to what I needed to do, to follow
Mm.
the plan and keep to the task I was out there to do.
Mm.
So all that sacrifices paid off for sure.
Spoken like a champion. But after
Yeah.
20 years being in the sport and being world number one for 9 years straight, what made you decide that it was time for you to call it a day and to hang up your racket?
Well, you said it yourself. It was 20 years, which is a lot of years of squash. So I think
Mm.
those years really hit me at the very end of my career, and I just knew that in my gut it was time to make that step away from squash because I played it for so long. The hunger was lost, and I was going in there just playing, not fully in there, wanting it as badly as I did when I was 18 years old, or when I was in the midst of my peak at world number one. So those were all the signs that I had
Mm.
to actually face. And at one point, my coach even asked me, 2 years leading up to my announcement, that do you really want to keep going, or because I don't see that you're fully out there ready to go for
Mm.
it. And so that really shook me, and I had to answer that question very abruptly to myself, and I knew that I only had 2 years left. And from that moment on, it was an emotional time to find out, do I really let this go? How am I gonna let go of squash? Squash was my life,
Mm.
and in that moment I met a lot of friends. My family was really good with me, and
Mm.
they opened my eyes to showing me pers- another perspective of life. Life is not just about squash, it's about what you can do with
Mm.
your squash to do something
Mm.
better. So
Mm.
the more I got to terms with that fact, the more I could let squash go, and I could move forward with a new phase of my life, and accepting that this is my life. I can do so much with this. I can use my experience to in a whole different way. And that's when I decided to announce my retirement. Is when a load came off my shoulders, and I had this free space in my mind that I'm ready to do so much more, and I'm so excited for the next phase.
Yeah. Why do you think the hunger wasn't there anymore?
I It's just time. I played it for
Okay,
so
fair
many
enough.
years, but it's just really like I used everything up. Like I think even that
Yeah.
last world title when I beat Ranim,
Mm.
I think it took out so much out of me that I
Mm.
think something broke from that moment that
Okay.
I couldn't get back to normal again, and I think it was a clear sign that it was time to
Yeah.
move forward.
And it's interesting as well that you mentioned you made that decision and you started planning 2 years before you announced your retirement. If I'm not mistaken, you announced it in February last year, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in that 2 years, you put all the mechanics together into venturing into the next phase of your life, right?
Yeah,
How is life? Yeah, yeah.
it was like
Go
a
on.
year and a
Yeah.
half.
Mm,
Yeah. So, but in total, 2 years from the moment I actually
mm,
stopped playing. Like so, but the announcement it was about a year and a half before that I really needed to work with the team. I started working with the team to prepare myself for what's to come, and that
mm,
with the marketing team, working on how am I going to do my make my announcement of my retirement, having a campaign to really showcase what squash is all about for me and in that retirement phase, and how am I going to take that next step
mm.
to do the next adventure for myself with this team. Yeah.
Yeah. So how has life been since you announced your retirement? How has life changed for you, being in the sport so competitively, and since the announcement of your retirement?
I absolutely love it. I'm the happy. I'm the happiest after my retirement. I really like. I'm so glad I don't have to be slogging away with my training, with my body always in pain, like trying to push
Mm-hmm.
myself time and time again. My mind is so much clearer, but at the same
Mm-hmm.
time, I'm doing so much other things to that challenges me to work. So my mind is actually more active now, getting myself up and running to prepare for meetings, for conferences, for speaking engagements, to have my own camp, like squash camps going on, and my a squash event in Malaysia in December, and so many things. And also one of my thing that I am most
Yeah.
like passionate about is my foundation, which I'm in the midst of setting up, and all these things are all working my brain in a whole different level for sure.
I like to touch
Which is
base.
great.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I'd like to touch base on
Yeah,
the project that you just mentioned, the Nicol David
yeah,
Foundation. Tell us about this
yeah.
foundation and what sparked the interest for this.
So the Nicol David Foundation is to empower girls and boys through sport to fulfill their full
Okay.
potential. And
Mm,
what sparked this is really just me being an athlete, growing
mm,
up as a kid, having a sport that I could go into and feel alive, like playing in a sport that makes you just want to play more or learn so much from it, or
yeah, wow.
developing so much values that you don't necessarily have to like drill into someone, but you actually gain from just playing sports.
Mm,
So all these things can be instilled in girls and boys when you are young
yeah.
through sport, and I want to give this opportunity to those who don't have a chance to have this opportunity, and that they can I can offer this program like for free, and they can actually come in, 8 9 year old girls and boys, to just come together, learn about good values,
Mm,
learn about dreaming big and feeling alive through sport. So that's my real heart and soul,
mm.
to try and give this experience back to our Malaysian kids in some way.
And this is for Malaysia. The Nicol David
Yes,
Foundation is for Malaysian
yes,
kids. How
it will start in KL first, yeah.
nice. And when can we expect this foundation to be kicked off?
Yeah, so we're hoping that by next year everything
Okay.
will come together. So at the midst now is really all the groundworks of trying to put things through, but it's really gonna be. I will have to be in Malaysia to do a lot more work, and with this MCO, we'll have to do it from here. So we're
Mm,
just keeping busy, keeping on track with the timeline, and
Mm.
my team is working really hard to make things come together. So very exciting times.
How has the response been from people, from stakeholders, from the Malaysian public? I'm sure that there's been a lot of buzz around the Nicol David Foundation. How has the response been from Malaysians?
Well, it's not up yet, so right now it's
Yeah.
really in the midst of. But I think that what we've been talking to people
Mm-hmm.
that would like to be involved with, we they are very excited to see how they can get involved and the
Okay.
potential of what this can bring to our juniors in
Mm.
just our kids in Malaysia, and hopefully we can inspire more kids to just play sport, just have fun, and also in the foundation we're gonna bring in English as well, so that we can
Oh.
add that into the syllabus of sport and English, because as we know Malaysia is good with their English, but at the same time the decline of the English is going down. So we want to give another space for them to learn a bit more
Oh.
and be more efficient with their English. So hopefully, give them a
Mm.
chance to do something more in their future. If you have a proficiency in English, it helps in so many other ways.
Oh, that's very, very interesting. Yeah, because that would also help in the communication of sport in general and
Yeah,
coaching and getting, yeah, basically achieving that through communication.
exactly.
Yeah. So that's something that you are doing for the sporting community through the Nicol David Foundation. What would you like to see the sport achieve in the coming years? Bringing together the whole ecosystem of squash, right? What would you like to see the sport achieve? I know there have been a lot of conversations around why squash isn't part of the Olympics, and that's something that you have been quite vocal about. Um, is that something that you still want to see squash being included in the Olympics? And apart from that, what do you want to see the sport come together and achieve? And in your opinion as well, what can Malaysia as a country do for squash and for the talent pool within it?
I think coming back to the Olympic Games for
Mm,
squash, it's just the Olympic Committee has decided that their priority is really focused on a different approach to what they define sport, and what they want to appeal to the youth and the kids, and like breakdancing, wall climbing, surfing. All these sports are actually all mostly appealing to the kids, and it brings back commercial value, and that's what the IOC is working towards. And squash has been can fit in the criteria. They tick all the boxes, but for some reason the IOC doesn't want us to be part of the game. So what we have to actually now put our mind, the squash community has to put our mindset into building our squad, our game that we love so dearly, and
mm,
the potential that we have to grow our sport in so many different ways is so much better for us to put our energies into that, and not feel like we have to fulfill a criteria that the
mm,
Olympic wants. So I think it's just less appealing for us to be in the Olympic Games right now, and now we just have to focus on building our sport.
mm,
And in Malaysia, I think the talent pool is really growing, and it's really exciting to see so many young kids coming through. We had an event just in December called the Dream Remains exhibition event, and we brought in four professional female players to come and play a 2 day event, and also we had 130 kids from all around Malaysia coming to watch the event. At the same time, they get a clinic to get on court with these top players, and myself included. And the talent that we saw in that 130 kids, and it's a
mm,
selected 130 kids all around the country, was amazing. Even the top pros, the female players, were very astounded with how they 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 play the game, their
mm,
mindset, they are so driven, and I'm so pleased to actually see this crop coming through. And I hope to do more to help them in some ways, having more of these events for them to witness top pro players
Mm.
playing right in front of them and being on court with them at the same time.
Yeah.
Um, and also for the Malaysian squash side, they are doing so much in terms of getting a lot of funding for our players, our athletes. They are getting good support from the sports science, and everything that they need is right there. So I'm very, very grateful and thankful that we have a very strong, solid team that can really push that next level for sure on the tour, and hopefully become a hub one day for squash to be training in Malaysia.
And speaking about talent, Nicole, a lot of
Yeah.
people they talk about how if you want to reach a certain world class level, talent is so important, right? But
Yeah.
having achieved that level, do you think talent is enough?
It's a combination of
Mm,
like hard work, dedication, and talent. You have to have some kind of talent to bring you to a certain level, but it comes with a lot of nurturing as well. So the right
mm,
mentorship to actually guide these talent in the right way, not over pressuring or not putting too much emphasis on how they need to fulfill a certain target. They have to do it themselves. They have to feel
mm,
like it's their place to put the work in, put the training in, and all we have to
mm,
do is just give the encouragement and assistance to them. So that's our part, and that's what the association is there to do. But we have to know how to guide them, not
mm,
and and that's very crucial. These are the most precious times for them to decide whether they want to pursue professionally, or even going to college and then play professionally after that. So it really boils down to how we want to encourage them in the best way possible.
right. And you've also been giving talks and running trainings, not only Malaysia but also in other parts of the world. Talk us through that. What have you been up to for the past couple of months?
So in the last few months, I've been involved with a lot of speaking engagements,
Mm-hmm.
motivational talks for corporates, for different
Mm-hmm.
companies, and also for the youth as well. Reaching out to more youth to speak to them on what squash has taught me and how I can share my experiences and learnings for them to take on in their own daily life and for their school and for their future as well. I also was involved with some panel speaking with the UN, the summit not so long ago in KL, speaking about women equality and how we want to enhance women empowerment. Just standing up for what women in Malaysia truly deserves, and just stand for themselves. And also I have been doing a lot of some squash camps in the US in like different universities. It's been fun. I'm enjoying that too, and I hope to do some camps in Malaysia as well. That will be in talks later in the second half of the year. And also, I mentioned a tournament that I ran with my team. It's called The Dream Remains
Mm-hmm.
exhibition event, only December last year,
Mm-hmm.
and it was actually a following from the campaign, the Dream Remains campaign from my retirement campaign. It's like what I want to do after I retire, because my dreams still remain, and I wanted to carry on giving back. And this is my way of giving back, bringing the top female professional players on board, having them go on court with our juniors, our kids, to just really inspire them to be like them and to gain as much as experience as possible from that event. So those are and then also working on the foundation setup. So a lot of things on the back line in US, talking to different NGOs and also urban squash facilities to also see what they have that could assist in some ways in the setting up of the foundation, and a lot of people coming in to chip in as well. So yeah, a few things going
You have a
on
lot on your
from my
plate.
end. But yeah, it's been fun.
I love your work on women empowerment.
Mm-hmm.
as a world champion and a trailblazer in sports, do you now feel a sense of responsibility to pave the way for other females to achieve this kind of success that you've had?
Yeah, I feel I have this position
Mm,
to actually reach out to more girls, more women,
mm,
to actually tell them that they can do it too. I'm a living proof of what a woman has done. A Malaysian uh, produce coming
mhm,
through the world and fulfilling her dream, and also just going out there and just giving a good go. Like we are really
mm,
so we have so much potential. We are so much more powerful
mhm.
than we know. So why not give it? Why not have this position to share my experience so that
Yeah.
I can give that sort of aspiration or inspiration for them to
Mhm.
do what they truly believe they can do. So,
Before we move on to our last couple of questions, we'll take a few questions from the audience.
yeah.
We have one from Li Jingwei.
Yeah.
Did you struggle with an identity crisis after you hung up your racket?
Yeah, definitely. It was quite a difficult time to understand what I am without squash.
Mm,
I was world, also at one point I was world number one for such a long time, and being world number two, I had to also define what is that too. But the identity crisis of not being a squash player was difficult. But the moment
mm,
I took that time to reflect, going through the emotions and having a point to be aware to accept that this is my path to take and I have to let go of my squash. It can get scary, but I had a lot of great support from my friends and my family, and a good team that was preparing me for my next phase of my career and my life. So I was very, very gracious for their support, and I could do the transition so much better and let my squash life identity go. So, good question.
very positive. Yeah. Um, you mentioned a lot about your parents, your friends who have supported you throughout. Who are the
Mhm.
people that you look up to for inspiration?
Well, obviously, my friends, my family especially. I think growing up in a family unit that was so close, they were really loving
Yeah.
and so supportive from the very beginning, and also how they had to work really hard. Like both my parents had to work hard. My dad is a civil engineer or project manager for jobs like factories, and my mom is a teacher. So I think they themselves exemplified something that was really powerful in the family unit, that they were hard workers.
Mm,
They were out there making sure that we were looked after very well, and I think that alone just gave me something to inspire to be inspired by and to learn from, and that's how I could project that sense and values forward in my career and up to now.
mm.
So
Okay, so your parents are the people that you look up to for
yeah,
inspiration.
yeah.
Tell us one thing about Dr. Nicol David that people don't normally would know about, an interest or a hobby perhaps.
A lot of things are out there. Really, I love drawing and dancing, street dancing, and now a little bit
Wow,
of
nice.
some maybe some Latin dancing. But also I do like my food, and I think a lot of people know that very well. And my favorites will be obviously my char kway teow at home. But if I
Yay,
can't
yes.
access my char kway teow, I will have to go to like my fried chicken wings, and pizza, which is these two. If I love it, and it will be if I have to treat myself once in a while. I don't eat
Of
it every day, but
course.
but so yeah, I think people think that being an athlete, you have to have a certain diet and stuff, but
Mhm.
I still love my junk food once in a while.
For the benefit of all Penangites who are watching and who will be
Yes.
watching this, where is your favorite char kway teow spot in Penang?
Ooh. Okay, so I have two spots. One spot for lunch will be at Batu Lancang Market because it's nearer to my house as well. And in the evenings for dinner time, char kway teow will be at Cameron, which is also not far from. It's like another coffee shop, which is not far from Lamoy Hospital. It's all in the same area.
Okay, there you go, folks. We've got Dr. Nicol David's favorite char kway teow spots in Penang.
Yes.
Uh, Nicole, you have inspired a generation of young girls, right, who can now dream of being athletes and possibly even world champions because of you, because you have inspired that dream. What would your advice be to them?
I would just have to say to all girls out there, give yourself a chance to try what you want to do for yourself. Don't stop thinking that you might fail or something might go wrong. Just have a go at it because you never know what opportunities might lie for you or and what may be that could be your path. You never know until you actually give it a chance. And I think people stop themselves because they are too worried that they're gonna fail. Failure is part of the deal. Like it's a process. If you get there, you have to go through these tough times. And but when you really feel in your gut that this is right for you, stick to
Mm-hmm.
it and keep pushing through. And who knows, if it really doesn't sit right in you, then that's when you decide, okay, why don't we you try something else. And that's how you start figuring out what you are good or what you're capable of. So I just want to say, give yourself a good go, and you're all tougher. You're all strong women, and you're ready to push forward for your dreams and your goals.
All right, there you have it, girls. Wise words from Dr. Nicol David. Nicole, such a pleasure having you, being part of this show. I'm so honored.
Oh,
Um,
thanks.
and it has been such, an inspiring conversation. We look forward to hearing more about the Nicol David Foundation and just
Yeah.
keeping track of what you'll be doing, all the great things that you'll be doing with your team in the coming months, in the coming years.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Everyone, please follow Nicol David on Instagram, her social media platforms, and keep an eye and ear out for all the great things that she'll be doing in the coming months, in the coming years, her Nicol David Foundation. Wow, what was that?
Oh, little fur ball.
Hi, hello.
Oh, good.
The Nicol David Foundation and the Squash Clinics. What is its
Ah.
name?
Oh, Vienna.
Is it a he or a she?
She. See you later. Thanks so much, Jacqueline.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nicol David and Vienna. So good to see you. And everyone, this has been another episode of Why People Do What They Do. If you haven't yet, please subscribe and like our pages and also our website at www.wpdwtd.com. Thank you so much, Dr. Nicol David. Please take care
Thanks.
in
You
Colombia.
too. Yeah,
Stay
be
safe,
safe.
stay healthy.
You
Take
too.
care. Bye bye.
Bye.